Ever noticed how some brands just, I don't know, get you? Like they almost anticipate what you want before you even realize it?
Yeah, or how others seem to just effortlessly connect with their ideal customer, while competitors kind of struggle.
Exactly. It's not magic, is it? It's a really sophisticated blend of strategy and insight.
Hmm.
So today we're taking a deep dive into this fascinating world. We're talking target markets, market segmentation, and sales forecasting.
Right. It's basically the playbook businesses use to, define, divide, and then directly reach their most valuable customers.
Our mission for this deep dive then is to pull back the curtain a bit, unpack these core concepts,
Yeah, show how businesses really get to understand their customer base, how they craft products and messages that will resonate deeply.
and critically, how they predict what you'll be buying next.
Exactly. You're going to walk away with uh, let's call it a shortcut to being really well informed on these crucial marketing strategies.
And for this deep dive, we're drawing from some really comprehensive materials, specifically Chapter 6 of a marketing textbook.
Ah, the one focused on target markets, segmentation, evaluation, and positioning.
That's the one. It gives us a fantastic foundation to build on. So let's just jump right in.
Sounds good.
We often talk about the market, right? But it's not just this vague group of people out there.
No, not at all. It's actually a group of individuals or organizations that have to check four very specific boxes.
Okay, what are they?
Well, first, they need a desire or a need for a product. Second, they need the ability, the buying power to actually get it.
Makes sense. Desire and ability.
Third, they need the willingness to make that purchase.
Yeah.
And fourth, this is the crucial one often overlooked, the authority to do so.
Authority. Huh. So all four have to be there.
Absolutely. All four must be present for a true market to exist. Think about like a kid wanting a soda.
Okay.
They definitely have the desire, maybe even the pocket money, the ability, and they're certainly willing.
Right.
But if we're talking about, say, alcohol, they lack the legal authority to buy it.
Ah, gotcha. So even with desire, ability, willingness, no authority, no market.
Precisely. It highlights that subtle but really vital fourth condition.
That's a great distinction. And when we look at these markets, they seem to fall into two big categories, right?
Yeah.
Consumer markets and business markets.
Exactly. Consumer markets, or B2C, that's pretty straightforward. It's individuals, households, buying things for their own personal use, not for profit.
Me buying groceries for dinner tonight.
Perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have business markets, B2B, sometimes called industrial or organizational markets.
Okay.
These are individuals or groups buying products for other reasons, maybe for resale, maybe to use directly in producing up goods, or just for the daily operations of their business.
So like that restaurant buying ingredients in bulk versus my few items at the store.
Precisely. Different purpose, different market.
So once a business figures out which market they're in, consumer or business, the real strategic work starts. That's market segmentation.
That's where it gets really interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because let's face it, not all customers are alike. You have what we call heterogeneous markets.
Meaning diverse needs.
Exactly. Lots of different product needs. And then you have homogeneous markets where customer needs are much more similar.
So if your market is heterogeneous, with all those different needs, trying to satisfy everyone sounds impossible.
It pretty much is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's precisely where market segmentation comes in. It's the strategic process, really, of dividing that big, diverse market into smaller, more manageable groups,
Yeah.
segments.
And the people within each segment have similar needs.
Relatively similar product needs, yes. And the whole point is to then design a much more precise marketing mix, product, price, promotion, distribution, tailored specifically to that group.
Okay, here's what often feels like the aha moment for companies, right? The real logic isn't just about like carving things up.
No, not at all. It's the realization that a company can do a much better job satisfying a portion of a market with something tailored.
Than trying to be everything to everyone.
Exactly. Because trying to please everyone usually means you don't really please anyone particularly well.
Makes sense. But for this whole segmentation thing to actually work, there must be some conditions, right? It can't just be random division.
Oh, absolutely. There are 5 key conditions for effective segmentation. First, and this is foundational, consumers' needs for the product must be heterogeneous.
Otherwise, why bother dividing?
Right. Second, the segments you create have to be identifiable and divisible. You need to be able to measure them somehow.
Okay. Identifiable and divisible. What else?
Third, the segments must be comparable. You need to be able to stack them up against each other in terms of sales potential costs, and potential profits.
Gotcha. Compare apples to apples or segments to segments.
Fourth, at least one of those segments has to have enough profit potential to make it worth your while, to justify the investment.
Makes business sense.
And finally, number 5, the organization absolutely have to be able to reach that chosen segment. You need the resources and channels to actually connect with them.
Think about a giant brand like Nike. How do they even begin to cater to everyone? Elite runners, sneaker collectors, basketball players, casual walkers.
That's the perfect segue into targeting strategies. Because how Nike does it, how any company does it, boils down to how they decide to target those segments they've identified.
So, identifying the right targeting strategy, that's the first step in actually selecting your target market.
It's the very first critical step in the 5-step target market selection process, yeah.
And the strategy you choose isn't picked in a vacuum. It's influenced by the market itself, the product's attributes, and, of course, the company's own goals and resources.
Okay, let's break down the main strategies. What's maybe the simplest one?
That would probably be the undifferentiated strategy. This is where a company basically treats the entire market for a product as its target. One single marketing mix for everybody.
Assuming everyone's needs are pretty much the same for that product.
Exactly. The underlying assumption is very similar needs across the board. For this to actually work, the market really needs to be quite homogeneous. Like what kind of products?
Think really basic commodities. Baking soda, maybe unbranded table salt, things where the use and appeal are almost universal. And crucially, the company needs to be able to maintain that single standard marketing mix effectively.
Okay, so that's one extreme. What's the opposite? Really focus.
That's the concentrated targeting strategy.
Right.
Here, a company zooms in on just one single market segment. All marketing efforts go towards that specific group.
Sounds potentially limiting, but I guess there are advantages.
Oh, definitely. The big advantage is specialization. You get to do a really deep dive, analyze that one group's needs incredibly well.
Become the expert for that niche.
Precisely. And by focusing all your resources, you can often get a large sales volume and really dominate that specific segment. It also, interestingly, allows smaller companies, maybe ones with fewer resources, to compete effectively against bigger players, but really owning that niche.
But I imagine going all in on one segment, well, it must have downsides too. Risks?
You're absolutely right. That's the main disadvantage, the risk. If demand in that one segment suddenly drops off, or maybe a big competitor jumps in.
Your whole business could be in trouble.
Exactly. Your financial stability can be seriously jeopardized. And sometimes, becoming too specialized can make it hard to pivot or enter other potentially good segments later on.
Any examples of concentrated strategies?
Sure. Think of really high-end specialized brands. Mont Blanc pens, maybe? Or how Tesla, initially, focused almost exclusively on the premium electric vehicle market. That was a concentrated approach early on.
Okay, so we have undifferentiated everyone and concentrated just one group. What's in the middle? Targeting multiple groups.
That's the differentiated targeting strategy. This is where a company targets 2 or more distinct segments and, importantly, develops a different tailored marketing mix for each one.
So multiple strategies running at once.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
The big advantage here is you can potentially increase your total sales quite a bit because you're appealing to more diverse groups of people.
And maybe use production capacity better.
That too. It can help absorb excess production capacity by spreading it across different product variations for different segments.
But it sounds more expensive and complicated.
It definitely is. That's the main trade-off. Production costs usually go up because you might need different materials or processes. And marketing costs increase because you need separate plans, maybe different ad campaigns for each segment. More complexity, more expense.
We see this all the time with big brands, don't we?
Absolutely. Think about L'Oreal. They have a whole portfolio of brands, right? From drugstore makeup to super high-end skincare, each targeting a different segment.
Or Adidas making specific lines and campaigns just for women athletes.
Right. Recognizing distinct needs. Apple does it with iPhones. Different models, different price points, appealing to different user groups. Lululemon isn't just selling generic yoga pants. They have gear for running, training, specific activities.
Yeah, Nike, going back to them, they're masters of this, right?
Total masters of differentiated strategy. They don't just sell shoes. They have specific marketing mixes for the sneakerheads with limited drops.
Right, the collectors.
Then for elite marathon runners needing cutting-edge performance tech. And then for basketball players wanting signature lines. Each gets its own ads, features, even how it's sold.
Like Umpqua Bank you mentioned earlier, tailoring things for consumers versus small businesses versus big corporations.
Exactly. Their banking needs are totally different, so Umpqua creates different marketing mixes. It's a very common and powerful strategy for larger companies.
Okay, this makes a lot of strategic sense. So we've talked about why segment and how to target, but how do businesses actually do the dividing? What are the practical tools?
Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. The segmentation variables, these are the characteristics, the traits that you use to actually split the market into those segments.
Choosing the right variable sounds pretty crucial.
It's absolutely critical. The variables you pick should directly relate to customer needs or their behavior. They need to be measurable. And you have to choose carefully because picking an inappropriate variable can just completely undermine your whole strategy.
So what are the main types of variables, especially for consumer markets?
Let's break them down. The most common, often the starting point, are demographic variables.
Okay, demographics, that's things like.
Age, gender, race, ethnicity, income level, education, occupation, family size, family life cycle stage, religion, even social class. The basic classifiers.
And why are they so popular?
Well, a couple reasons. They're often very closely linked to what people need and how they buy things. And importantly, they're usually pretty easy to measure and track through census data, surveys, things like that.
Like companies watching the changing age distribution, or how kids influence family spending now.
Exactly. Or think about Hilton Hotels, as the source notes. They use demographic data extensively to understand and target their incredibly diverse global customer base, business travelers, families, luxury seekers.
And the family structure itself is changing, right? The typical family isn't so typical anymore.
That's a huge demographic shift. Marketers track these changing family life cycles. Singles, young couples, families with young kids, empty nesters to spot new needs and opportunities.
Like American Eagle Outfitters focusing squarely on that 15 to 25 age group. That's a clear demographic target.
Classic example.
Okay, so beyond who people are, we can segment by where they are, geographic variables.
Right, geography matters. This includes things like climate, terrain, city size, population density, whether it's urban, suburban, or rural. All these can really influence product needs.
Like needing different clothes in Florida versus Alaska.
Obviously, marketers often use data from sources like the Census Bureau, looking at things like metropolitan statistical areas, or MSAs. We also talk about market density.
Market density?
Yeah, basically the number of potential customers packed into a specific area, like per square mile. Higher density might mean different distribution strategies.
And then there's that term, geodemographics.
Ah, yes. Geodemographic segmentation. It's a pretty powerful technique that clusters people together based on their Z-key code, combining lifestyle and demographic information.
So people in the same neighborhood might share characteristics.
Often, yes. Nielsen's Presem system is a well-known example. It mixes demographics, consumer behavior patterns, and geography to create these really detailed segment profiles, like urban achievers or country comfort.
Wow, that's specific. You can even go smaller.
You can. Down to micromarketing, which targets tiny geographic areas, maybe even a specific neighborhood or a single store's trading area. Very focused.
Incredible precision. Okay, demographics, geographics.
Yeah.
What about the why behind buying, the psychology?
Now you're talking about psychographic variables. This is where we dig into the consumer's inner world. Personality characteristics, their motives for buying, and their overall lifestyle.
Personality, how does that work?
Well, marketers might try to appeal to certain traits like adventurousness, independence, or maybe conscientiousness. It's often used when products are physically similar, trying to create an emotional connection, usually focusing on positive traits people aspire to.
And motives, the reasons why they buy.
Exactly. What's driving the purchase? Is it about personal appearance, affiliation, wanting to belong, status, safety, health? These motives affect what people buy and where they buy it.
Like Halo Top ice cream, targeting people motivated by health.
Perfect example.
Right.
Lower calorie, higher protein directly appealing to that health motive. Or think about parents buying tech for kids. Their motives, maybe safety or education, heavily shape those choices.
And lifestyle seems like a big category.
It is. Lifestyle segmentation looks at how people spend their time, what's important to them, their beliefs, their activities, interests, opinions, often called AIOs.
So skull candy headphones,
Yeah.
is that lifestyle?
Great example. Our source highlights them. While age is a factor, their primary segmentation is psychographic. They target the lifestyle of active sports enthusiasts who also care a lot about fashion and self-expression through their gear.
Okay, one more category. Behavioristic variables. How people act regarding the product.
Precisely. This looks at some feature of consumer behavior, especially how they use the product. Usage rates, heavy users versus light users, brand loyalty, things like that.
And isn't there something called benefit segmentation here?
Yes, and it's a really insightful one. Benefit segmentation divides the market based on the specific benefits consumers are actually looking for from the product itself.
So not just who they are, but what they want the product to do for them.
Exactly. For this to work well, though, a few things need to be true. The benefits people seek must be identifiable. You need to be able to divide people into groups based on those benefits. And again, those segments need to be accessible.
Like Nike again. Performance benefits for runners, maybe style or brand loyalty benefits for sneakerheads.
Perfect illustration. Same company, maybe even similar looking shoes, but targeted based on totally different desired benefits.
Wow. You can see how these layers build up, like that example in the source, starting broad with university student.
Right.
Then maybe students in California, then UCLA students, then business school majors, then marketing majors, then, I don't know, male, brown hair, brown eyes, over 5'7" marketing majors.
See how the number standing gets smaller and smaller with each step?
Yeah, dramatically. It shows how incredibly specific a target segment can become.
Yeah.
You go from a huge crowd to a tiny, very defined group.
And that level of specificity allows a company to really understand and tailor their approach. But this precision also brings up some interesting and sometimes sensitive discussions.
Like the ethical considerations the source material touches on.
Exactly. For instance, targeting based on religion or sexual orientation. Absolute Vodka targeting LGBTQ consumers in specific magazines, wanting to be seen as open-minded. Or Whole Foods offering halal products for Muslim customers.
On one hand, that's serving specific needs in a diverse market.
Right. Identifying and meeting needs. But, as the source points out, it can sometimes raise concerns about stereotyping or potentially portraying groups in ways some might find offensive.
And the example of fast food marketing to kids.
Yeah, that's another complex one. Critics worry about promoting unhealthy eating habits, especially how kids are drawn to branded packaging. Some states even mandate calorie counts now.
So it's a tension, serving specific needs versus potential societal concerns.
It really is. There are rarely easy answers. And brands are constantly navigating that line, trying to be effective marketers while also being, well, responsible. It's an ongoing balancing act.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, what about businesses selling to other businesses? How do they segment their markets?
The variables are a bit different for B2B markets.
How so? What do companies like Umpqua Bank look at when targeting businesses?
They typically look at four main things. Geographic location, where the business is. The type of organization, manufacturer, retailer, service provider, etc. Customer size, small business versus large enterprise. And finally, product use, how the buying business will actually use the product.
So Umpqua, for example.
They're a great case study. They segment their business market by customer size, offering different banking solutions for small businesses compared to large corporations.
Because their needs are different.
Vastly different.
Right.
And they also segment by type of organization. They have tailored approaches for retailers, manufacturers, healthcare providers, agriculture businesses, professional services. Each industry has unique financial needs.
So they create specific marketing mixes for each of those business segments.
Exactly. Just like in consumer markets, but using business-relevant variables.
Okay, so a company has done all this work. They've identified potential segments using these variables. How do they go from just understanding these groups to actually choosing which ones to target?
Right. That's the critical transition from analysis to action. It involved the next three steps in the target market selection process: developing profiles, evaluating the segments, and finally selecting the targets.
Let's take step 3. Develop market segment profiles. What exactly is a profile?
A profile is essentially a detailed portrait of a segment. It describes the similarities within the segment, what makes those customers alike, and also, very importantly, the differences between segments.
What kind of information goes into a profile?
It covers a lot. Demographics, geographic factors, the specific benefits they're looking for, lifestyle characteristics, brand preferences, even how frequently they use the product category, their usage rates.
And why are these profiles so important?
They're crucial for a couple of reasons. First, they help marketers really understand how the company's own strengths and capabilities align with the needs of different customer groups. Second, they help determine which segments look most attractive, especially when considering the firm's own strengths and weaknesses. It's about finding the best fit.
Okay, profiles created. Then step 4, evaluate relevant market segments. This sounds like where the hard decisions start.
It is. This is where you really scrutinize the potential segments. A big part of this is estimating sales.
How much could we potentially sell to this group?
Exactly. But there's a distinction here. You have market potential, that's the total amount of a product that all companies in the industry could possibly sell to a segment.
The whole pie for that segment.
Right. Then you have company sales potential, that's the maximum slice of that pie that your specific company can realistically expect to grab.
How do companies estimate their slice?
There are two main approaches mentioned. The breakdown approach starts big, maybe a general economic forecast, then narrows it down to the industry, then the market potential, and finally to the company's share.
Top down.
Yep. And the build-up approach starts small. You estimate potential purchases by individual buyers in an area, multiply by the number of buyers, and then add up the totals across all the areas you're considering.
Bottom up.
Precisely.
But sales aren't everything, right? You have to look at the competition, too.
Oh, absolutely critical. A thorough competitive assessment is vital for accurate sales estimates. You need to ask tough questions.
Right.
How many competitors are already targeting this segment? What are their specific strengths and weaknesses? Is there a dominant player, or is it fragmented? Can we actually compete effectively here? What's the chance new competitors might show up soon?
So Nike again. When they're looking at the high-performance running shoe segment,
They're doing exactly this. They analyze competitors' sales, their market share, what new products they're launching, how much they're spending on advertising, how strong their distribution is.
do they talk to runners, too?
Absolutely. The source mentions they even asked elite runners for their perceptions of competing shoes. That kind of deep competitive insight is indispensable for planning.
And then there's the cost factor.
Right. Meeting the specific needs of a segment, tailored products, specific marketing can be expensive. You have to realistically estimate those costs and weigh them against the potential profit. The segment has to be profitable enough to justify the effort and expense.
Which leads logically to the final step, step 5. Select specific target markets.
This is the culmination, the final decision. It's based on everything you've learned, the differences in customer needs, the sales potential, the competition, the costs balanced against your company's own resources.
Resources like money, people, skills.
Exactly. Financial strength, managerial skills, employee expertise, your facilities. Can you actually do what's needed to compete effectively in the segments you choose?
And why is making this choice so critical?
Because selecting the right target markets is fundamental to the whole marketing concept philosophy. That philosophy is all about satisfying customer needs as the path to achieving your own organizational goals. Get the target wrong, and everything else downstream is much harder, if not impossible.
Okay, so we've identified, profiled, evaluated, and selected our target markets. Now we need to predict how much we'll actually sell to them. This brings us to the crystal ball sales forecasting.
Right, the crystal ball of commerce, as you put it.
So what exactly is a sales forecast? How is it different from that sales potential we talked about?
Good question. A sales forecast is the specific amount of a product in units or dollars that a company expects to sell during a specific future period, assuming a certain level of marketing activity.
So it's an expectation, not just a possibility.
Precisely. Company sales potential looks at what sales are possible under different levels of marketing effort. The forecast is the prediction of what management thinks will actually happen at a specified level of effort.
And why is getting this forecast right so important?
Its accuracy is paramount. Almost every department in the company relies on it. Production needs to know how much to make. Inventory needs to manage stock levels. Finance needs it for budgeting. HR needs it for staffing plans. It drives so much operational planning.
Okay, so how do companies actually make these forecasts? What are the common techniques?
There are several approaches. Perhaps the simplest, or at least most direct, is executive judgment.
Just based on what the bosses think.
Pretty much. It relies on the intuition and experience of one or more executives. It's not very scientific, obviously, but it can be quick and inexpensive.
Does it work?
It can work reasonably well if demand for the product is relatively stable and the executives involved have a lot of experience in that market. But the big downside is bias. Executives might be overly optimistic or pessimistic, and that could really skew the forecast.
Okay, what's more systematic?
Surveys. Surveys are another common method. You could do a customer forecasting survey where you directly ask customers how much of a product they intend to buy in the future.
Seems logical. Ask the buyer.
It does, but what people say they'll buy and what they actually buy can be different. Another type is the Salesforce forecasting survey.
Asking your own salespeople.
Yeah. Salespeople estimate sales within their own territories. The advantage is they're closest to the customers. They have that ground level view.
And maybe they feel more ownership of the forecast if they helped create it.
That's often true. They might be more motivated to achieve the numbers they predicted. Then there's the expert forecasting survey.
Bringing in outside experts.
Exactly. Hiring consultants or other experienced professionals. Like executive judgment. It's relatively quick and inexpensive. But these external experts might not have the same deep motivation as your internal team.
Is there a way to make expert surveys more reliable?
Yes, the Delphi technique. It's a more refined process. You gather initial forecasts from a panel of experts anonymously, then you average those forecasts and share the results back with the experts. They then revise their forecasts, usually over several rounds. It tends to push the group towards a more accurate consensus.
Interesting. What about using past data, history repeating itself?
That's time series analysis. This method uses the company's historical sales data, looking for patterns and assuming those patterns will continue more or less into the future.
What kinds of patterns do they look for?
Several types. Trend analysis looks at the long-term direction. Are aggregate sales generally rising, falling, or staying flat over many years?
The big picture trend.
Right. Cycle analysis looks for wave-like patterns, consistent fluctuations that happen over periods longer than a year, often 3 to 5 years, maybe tied to economic cycles.
Okay. Shorter term.
Seasonal analysis looks for patterns within 1 year, predictable peaks and valleys related to seasons, holidays, maybe even time of day or week. Think ice cream sales in summer or toy sales before Christmas.
Makes sense. What if sales are just weird, bumpy?
That's where random factor analysis comes in. It tries to attribute erratic sales movements to specific non-recurring events like a hurricane, a strike, a pandemic scare. Things outside the normal pattern. Time series works best when demand is fairly stable. It struggles with really erratic sales.
Okay, that sounds like looking only at past sales. Can you link sales to other factors?
Yes, that's regression analysis.
Yeah.
This is more statistically complex.
Uh-oh. Statistics.
Yeah. It involves finding a mathematical relationship between past sales, that's your dependent variable, and one or more independent variables that are believed to influence sales.
Like what?
Things like changes in population, per capita income, gross domestic product, maybe even advertising spending. If you can find a reliable mathematical link based on historical data, you can use forecasts of those independent variables to predict future sales.
Sounds powerful if you have the data.
It is, especially when a clear association exists and you have lots of data, but it's pretty much useless for forecasting sales of brand new products because there's no history to build the equation on.
So for new products, what do you do? Maybe test it out first.
Exactly. That brings us to market tests. This involves actually making the product available to buyers in one or more limited test areas. Then you carefully measure how much people buy and how they react to different marketing mix elements.
Like a trial run in a specific city or region.
Precisely. The big advantage is you're measuring actual purchase behavior, not just intentions. That's powerful data. It's especially good for forecasting new product sales or for existing products going into totally new areas.
And you can experiment, change the price or ads in the test market.
Yes, that's another key benefit. It allows you to test variations in advertising, pricing, promotions, even distribution channels in a real-world setting before you commit to a big, expensive national launch.
Like the examples in the source. Chick-fil-A testing new menu items in certain restaurants first.
Right. Or Bank testing their BFF app with a limited group of 1,700 customers to see how they used it and reacted before rolling it out wider. Real-world feedback.
But market tests must have downsides too.
They do. They can be quite time-consuming to set up and run. They're often expensive. And there's always the risk that the behavior you see in your limited test market might not accurately represent how the total target market will react. The test area might not be perfectly representative.
So with all these different methods, judgment, surveys, time series, regression, tests, do companies usually just pick one favorite?
Not typically, especially larger companies. Most businesses actually use a combination of forecasting methods.
Why use more than one?
Several good reasons. It helps deal with forecasts needed for different time frames, short-term versus long-term, or for different product lines or segments where one method might be better than another. Using multiple methods allows you to cross-verify the results. If two different methods give similar forecasts, you can have more confidence.
Makes sense. Kind of a checks and balances system.
Exactly. And it helps compensate for the inherent weaknesses of any single method. By combining approaches, you can often arrive at a more robust, reliable, and accurate forecast overall.
Wow. We have covered a lot of ground today. We've taken a really comprehensive deep dive, haven't we?
We really have, from the basic definition of what a market even is.
Right, those four conditions: desire, ability, willingness, authority.
To how businesses strategically divide those markets through segmentation, using all those different variables,
Demographics, geographics, psychographics, behavioristics.
then evaluating those segments and choosing specific targets using different strategies, like undifferentiated, concentrated, or differentiated.
And finally, peering into that crystal ball with all those sales forecasting techniques.
It's a complex process, no doubt, but it's absolutely crucial. It underpins pretty much every product and service you encounter.
And connecting it to the real world, like the Uber example, they clearly targeted Gen Z and millennials initially, right?
Yeah.
Based on lifestyle, tech comfort, not wanting cars.
Absolutely. A very deliberate segmentation and targeting effort based on demographics and psychographics. But then think about the challenges they faced later: trust issues, surge pricing backlash.
It shows that understanding your market isn't a one-time thing.
Not at all. It's an ongoing journey. Markets change, customers change, competitors change. You have to keep listening, learning, and adapting.
So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for you, our listener? Now that you have this kind of advanced understanding of how companies identify, segment, and target,
Take a moment and think. What specific market segments do you belong to right now? Who are the marketers actively trying to reach you?
and maybe how might this deeper understanding of these strategies influence your own buying decisions going forward? Or perhaps even spark some ideas if you're thinking about starting your own business and reaching a specific niche. Lots to consider.